We're back! And I can hear myself now. That's weird. What is going on, everybody? We have returned with another recap. As you can see from the title, this is 2 weeks in one. Obviously, Luke was unavailable last week. Had some other stuff come up that I don't know if we'll talk about that or not. But long story short, Luke and Angels Thursday was absolutely insane last week. I ended up missing league and had to miss this show as well. So we are back talking about 2 shows at once, and this is kind of recapping. I think it's actually kind of cool that this worked out because we're getting settled into the second half right now. We just had weeks 18 and 19, which was the first 2 weeks of the second half, and so we kind of get to talk about that a little bit. And we're 2 weeks in, we can start to kind of think about trajectory of some of the the rest of the league as a whole, if that makes sense. So, what's going on, Luke?
What's up?
Yeah, good to have you back this week. Glad things are okay after the shenanigans, shall we say, last week.
Yeah, I think it turns out that he just wasn't feeling great. He was in his feelings, so
he had a tummy ache and was being a drama llama about it.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, so I guess to explain it briefly for the stream is Storm Dog ended up going to the doggy ER last Thursday.
Yeah,
pretty big health scare. Thankfully, he is okay and back to being his usual dingus self. But because of that, Luke actually spent a good chunk of Thursday last week in Kansas City and missed league. And, obviously with dealing with Storm Dog and all that, we didn't have a stream. So we're back. We're here, and hopefully hopefully fewer adventures for the rest of the season.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I guess kind of we can talk a little bit first about our 2 matches that we had the last 2 weeks, and then kind of take a look at trajectory, and then we've got a tough match coming up tonight as well. So thinking back to week 18, Jaden actually got pretty sick coming back from Las Vegas, where she was out there with the Ottawa University bowling team for a couple big tournaments out at the South Point Bowling Plaza. So Jaden would have missed 3 weeks in a row, which meant her absent would have gone from 218 to 208, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And so we ended up snagging Tobias as a sub. He barely fit. He fit by if Jaden averaged 0.6 slower per game, we couldn't have had Tobias bowl for her. Is what it came down to. So squeaked that one in right at the buzzer.
He might as well have been her absent score.
Yeah, which that worked out. 655 is better than 208 triplicate, so I'm not complaining about that. But Rob's team, we went 19-13 with Rob's team first half, I think, or something like that. It was a really close match. I remember that much. And this was just another just complete back and forth dogfight. We made a pretty good run at coming back and getting total, and came up just short game 3. But Rob's team is always going to play us tough. I feel like the right side got a little weird game 2 for pretty much everybody except Jared. But Jared, I think, had a Brooklyn or 2 or a couple of weird hits in there too. So it was kind of a little bit of a Houdini 240. And then I still don't understand how I shot 260 game 3. That was just, I feel like it came out of nowhere. And I didn't even feel like I was throwing it that well. But then I'm trying to think 2 weeks ago I felt like you threw it pretty well and you just didn't really get on top of it quick enough on the fresh.
Yeah, I think it was something going on, or for both Rob and I, he just did a better job of figuring it out the first game. I think that they were a little bit wetter. And so just having some angle issues, figuring it out. And because I remember talking to you about saying, I was like, are you sure this is it? And it's like, yeah, it's just unfortunately it still takes me longer than it should to make adjustments.
Yeah.
And so I knew where I needed to get to. It just took me a whole lot longer than it should have. But once I got there, it was just basically firing my promotion up.
Oh yeah, that's right. You threw the promotion that week. I forgot about that.
And kind of trapping it at the pocket because we had that one lane that was really wiggly down lane, and the pin spots were not great.
It was 5 was the wiggly lane, right?
Yeah, it was the wiggly lane on 5, and then it was whatever was going to happen when you hit the pocket, and so it was just one of those things. Rob stayed more kind of even keel. He adjusted quicker, and but I kind of caught up fine once I got everything worked out. It was fine after that, but yeah, it was definitely quite a bit different from a typical league experience.
Yeah, but I mean, 180 first game, and you get back to a 650 set, and 5 and 6 is a terrible lefty pair to begin with.
Yeah, we're just not going to be mad about that.
If you can get out of that, I mean, I was 1 through 6 actually from a pinfall perspective, I think were our worst pairs in the first half, and so if we can kind of think about it that way, if we can get off of these pairs get off of these first, like, so we hit those pairs exclusively in the first 7 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And after week 7, we're done with 1 through 6 for the year. And so I think if we can get off of those and be in a pretty good spot, I think get off of those and be in an okay spot points wise, I think we'll be in pretty good shape for the second half.
Yeah.
Realistically speaking. Yeah, I think actually, let me go back. I feel like I played them decently well, if I remember right. I just had like probably 4 or 5 shots there I had no business striking, and none of them were anywhere close to striking. So I had several shots that were just like missing by literally 5 or 6 boards at the break point, like really bad misses. And so, I mean, to have done that and then kind of, I think I was slow hooking it a little more with my top speed game 3, and that just somehow managed to be the magic move, even though nobody had been anywhere close to that all day. So I don't know. It's kind of a throw your shoulder shrug. Doesn't make sense, but it got the pins down. So whatever, on to next week.
Yeah, it was one of those tricky things because I don't think it was necessarily about where you were playing on the lane. It's where you had to play to get the ball to go through the pins the right way.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
Because you could have hit the pocket from further right, but
yeah, and I did for 2 games.
Yeah, but were you going to strike? No, and that's kind of what Rob and I did. Is that it wasn't for lack of hitting the pocket. It was just for wasn't hitting the pocket the right way.
Yep. Yeah, and that's pretty much how it ended up going. And I just got my ball going through the pins the right way more than anything else. I didn't really even feel like I threw it that much better game 3. I just played them correctly to get my ball through it the right way. So,
and that was kind of the same thing. I didn't throw it too bad.
It was just kind of getting all the little variables dialed in to get your ball to do the right things. So, yeah, but I mean, even with kind of a weird week for both of us, and Noah being gone, and Tobias felt like he bowled a lot more than 650. Warren, I'm pretty sure the 4 times that I've bowled against the team that Warren is on, he is averaging about 230 so far in my 2 years of Midland. It's really getting annoying. Love the guy, but it's getting really annoying. If your 209 leadoff is averaging 230 against you, that's not super fun to deal with.
Yeah, Warren's sneaky, and that's one of those that we talked about on the preview video for that week. Was that it was, they're one of those teams that, they're going to stay out of trouble, and if they can actually, again, I think like exactly what I said about Caitlin. If she gets the hits when she hits the pocket, she's going to beat me, and that's she actually got her hits. It has nothing to do with her as how well she bowls, really. If she gets if the ball's going through the pocket the right way, it's just going to be what it is.
Okay, might as well pack up and come back next week. At that point. So yeah, and then moving on to last week, obviously you were not there, and your 227 blind was a
that's better than I was. That's better than my score was probably going to be on that pair anyway. So
yeah, I was going to say that might be your best set in like 3 months on 1 and 2. So, Vanity, that's actually a good question. I think
it's more pair to pair at Royal Crest, and sometimes it's week to week.
it's pair to pair and weather are the big
Mm-hmm.
things, because especially if you end up like right in front of one of the doors, which is like 1 and 2, and then 9 through 12, those pairs are right in front of doors. And so I think those pairs get really affected when it's very, very cold outside. And then as it gets colder, it feels to me like the fronts just get a little more grabby in general. I've had to be getting into kind of stuff that doesn't slow down as early as we've gotten into the winter versus I was throwing my NV tour like almost exclusively the first 7 or 8 weeks of the year. And so that
Yeah.
I think that's been a little bit of where I've gotten stuck, is just kind of trying to replicate that same type of reaction just with something that doesn't see the fronts quite as much. And I think that might be a little bit of where I've gotten stuck, if I'm being honest. But yeah, I do agree with pair to pair being a huge part of it. And especially, the league average this year is like 215,
Yeah.
which is pretty nutty. So, I mean, even though like relatively, like relative to the league, the shit bowlers are still pretty dang good bowlers.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah. Yeah. There's.
Angel is one of the lower averages in the league, and
Mm-hmm.
she sees things better than most people by a long shot. And so I think with that, I think a lot of what I see week to week is very dependent on our cross. And I think that's something we'll be talking about a little bit later too, with bowling against the Ottawa kids tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then obviously for you, whether you're bowling, Trevor and Eric, or if or like against Jim Anderson, like that's going to drastically affect your night as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do think a lot of the difference is much more pair to pair, because like I practice at Royal a decent amount as well, and going back there for tournaments where we're moving pairs every game, or going back there to practice on a pattern, I can see some of the same lane characteristics that I noticed in league shining through on patterns as well. And so I do think, especially in centers that have been around for a bit, pair to pair has a much bigger impact on your perceptions week to week than a lot of people can realize, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So now that we've beaten that horse, you're blurry again. Nice.
Yeah.
We'll get there. So then I guess talking about last week, 1 and 2, I think, has pretty firmly cemented itself as my least favorite pair on the low side of the dyno ramps at Royal Crest. I Houdini'd a 250 game 1. I threw, what did I use? I used my top speed the entire day on the right lane, and about the first half of the day on the left lane. And then I was actually throwing 2 balls, 2 lanes for basically the last couple frames of game 2 and all of game 3, and that didn't help at all. But it was a really weird night. I was seeing the lanes as very, very different. I'm not sure if that was just my ball speed kind of over amplifying things, but I mean, Jaden threw it great and shot 570, and she was doing 2 balls, 2 lanes as well for a good chunk of the day. And Noah just did his thing, beat up the pocket, shot 600. Dennis obviously was absent, and Jesse started his reconversion back to 2-handed in game 2.
Yeah.
Where incidentally, I didn't even realize this at the time, he fouled on his fill ball of game 2 to lose the game to me and then choose 290. So that was a little bit rude, but I respect it. But it's Jesse's one of those guys where he throws a better 2-handed than most people do, and or will at any point in their possible life.
I was talking to Zach Wilkins at the one of the last KC tournaments, and I told him, it's like, yeah, man, Jesse's one of the, like, just about the top 10 2-handers I've ever seen, period. And he's like, man, I'm gonna have to see that. And so he posted a video of him finishing off the 290, and yeah, it do be like that.
Yeah. So I think Jesse actually drilled up a couple balls 2-handed last week. So I think he's pretty much all in on it at this point. At least until he stops striking for a month and then he goes back to putting his thumb in it. So.
Yeah, that's just
he's a tinkerer too.
Yeah, I think that's just the thing, is he's always had, just hasn't been able to get the fit right. He's a Norm Duke type of, just can't quite get it right. And he throws it so good 2-handed, but I think the thing is that when they're a little dry, he's one of those. He's like a BJ Moore, two-handed.
Yeah.
He's like a two-handed BJ Moore because he just sometimes cannot score, and it's just one of those things where somebody drives by a 9-pin or something, and you tell them throw it worse next time. It's exactly that. Gussie two-handed.
Yeah.
It's exactly that. It's just his ball roll is a little too clean and pure, and I think he just needs to find some layouts that are going to slow, or balls that are going to slow things down a little bit to get the ball to just not slide.
Just kind of mud tumble blend off of it a little bit more.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Josh actually, like, I'm going to be honest, I don't understand how Josh averages 211. Like, his ball roll is...
How does Warren average 209 type of deal?
I honestly think, like, I'm starting to think it is, because Josh's ball roll is sick. He's got experience bowling collegiately, so he's got some tricks to kind of make stuff work in different situations. And like, he was throwing like a cutting edge solid, which I forgot that ball existed, and just crushed the pocket. Like, he probably bowled the best set out of anybody on the pair, if I'm being honest, by a lot, and kept himself in play. And it's kind of like, how, like, I watch him bowl and I'm like, how do you not average 225, 230? I don't understand. I'm confused. Yeah, and then Ryan just got rink-a-dinked. I think his IQ went away pretty quick, and then he didn't really have an answer after that. But down lane was a little bit tighter if you undershelled. And so that kind of trapped him out a little bit. I didn't ever feel like I needed to be throwing anything weaker than my top speeder in V-Tour. So I had an ethos, and I think my Trend 2 with me, and I threw one shot with the Trend 2, and it missed like 6 feet long in practice. And I'm like, well, that ball's gone.
That's the weird thing about that pair too, because that's the one I shot good on when I got back from nationals last year with a Revenant. And then we bowled Team Ottawa on it last half, and I threw my gold label most of the time, and it wasn't.
Yeah.
I think I shot like 650 and got tapped half the time, and it just...
Yeah, it was one of the early nights where your good shot split and your margin, your good shots got 9 and your marginal shot split type of days. So, yeah, got a lot to talk about, but let's try and keep this moving at least a little bit. Speaking of Team Ottawa, they're back, except we're not on 1 and 2 this week. So we have the Ottawa kids. We have the Ottawa kids on 3 and 4, which a little bit of kind of do it.
That's so much better.
I think it is.
Yeah.
Question mark, maybe.
One lane hooks and it does, and the other one doesn't.
Yeah, pretty much. No, thinking back to what we saw in 3 and 4 in the first half, I think for me it's going to be throwing a little harder and being a little more up the lane direct with it, with a little bit less shell than I would normally think. This was the pair where I went 190, 290, 250 against Kreitzer's team in like week 6 or 7.
Yeah.
Where it was kind of everything trying to curve it just kind of got me trapped and gave me angle issues, and then I just squared up and chucked it and was off to the races. So I'm gonna give that a look a lot quicker tonight than I would normally. Jonathan, the topography on 1 through 6, especially 1 and 2, just seems kind of weird, and it's been that way for a long time. So I don't know. It do be like that, but everybody hits those pairs, so it's all good.
And it could have something to do because at Westridge and Topeka, lane 7 and 8 has historically been 7 is the latest hooking lane in the house, and 8 is the earliest hooking lane in the house. And it's not that one is drier or wetter than the other. It's where the ball starts hooking is so much earlier on lane 8 that. But when they had the PWBA there in 2015. We actually, to have that to begin with, they had to have a special lane certification done to have the tournament.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, you have to, and that's why the USBC is going to do those levels of certification for like installs and whatever else. It's like, well, instead of holding everybody to one set of certification, it's kind of like, well, we'll give you a little bit of breathing room for just leagues, but if you want to have like a regional there or a professional tournament there, then you've got to go up.
Yeah.
And so they had to actually fix everything. But
Okay.
the thing is that 7 and 8 was still the lowest scoring pair in the house by 11 pins a game. It was lower.
That's a
So what
lot.
we're looking at on this, so for
Yeah.
the PWBA tournament, it was 11 pins lower than the next pair up. It wasn't 11 pins
Not high to
lower.
low. It was 11 from.
Yeah,
So
it
like
wasn't. It wasn't.
using this graph, let's say 3 and 4 average was 203
Yeah, yeah,
or like 202, 203 ish
yeah,
instead of 212.
exactly.
God, that's wild.
So even after they fixed the topography, everything,
Yeah.
even when it measured out correctly and was fine, that pair still had its same characteristics. They were so
That's crazy.
unmatched.
Yeah, that's really
So
interesting. But yeah, so 3 and 4 is pretty much tied for the lowest scoring pair in the league, and that's off by 1/10 of a pin per bowler per game. I think, let's see, looking back, we've actually done okay on it as a team. I think our team average is 220 and a bit, which is slightly below our overall average, but and it's still two really solid nights. 19 against Wagner with 2,500, and then that really close 16-16 against Kreitzer. Which, fun side note, by the way, and this happened twice last week. Two teams lost total pins and won more points. And I didn't know that was really even possible in this scoring format. So that was kind of a fun little note.
you might have to say that again. I think we lost.
Oh, sorry. Did we lose the interwebs?
Yeah.
Yeah. So last week, I'll actually jump over here to the standings. So we took 18 off of Jesse. We went 18 and 14 against Jesse and lost total. And then who else did it? Oh yeah, Russ's team went 17-15 against Crouch and also lost total.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just kind of a like the. I guess I sort of knew it was possible, but I didn't think it was. Excuse me, I didn't think it would happen all that much, and it happens twice in 1 week, and one of those is less. So I thought that was just a funny little coincidence. Yeah, so we've had a couple of, I think for us, really solid performances. 25-50 is not a bad score on 3 and 4, and then had that. Oh, did we lose Luke again? Luke, you froze. Oh no.
Hear you.
Luke has died, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, you froze for a minute
know.
there. That was weird.
Yeah, keep saying
Yeah. Are we there? Hello?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we're here.
Huh, weird. Okay.
Whatever.
Yeah, it happens. But yeah, I mean, we're 220 average as a team and had that obviously really high scoring match against Kreitzer in week 5. And then, week 1, a really close match against Rob's team. So it's still a okay-ish pair for us. Little more up and down. I mean, 24-25, that's about the floor, I feel like, for the Ottawa guys. And, bowling against Trevor's team, I could see how that could get ugly pretty quick, especially with Brent being that far left.
Yeah,
So,
I don't think they're going to shoot. Their team is basically built like our team. It's just our average has been higher.
Yeah, we've just gotten it done a little more, I feel like.
I think that's how they've stayed, despite not having the pinfall that everybody else does. I think that it's just they don't lose games.
Yeah, pretty much.
Because their floor is so high. Their ceiling's not a whole lot higher than their floor, it doesn't seem like, but their floor is so high that they're eking out those like 840 to 830 games and stuff like that. I really think that's they just don't have those. They just don't have very many like bad games.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm looking through their game log. I think I'm seeing 1, 2, 3, 4 games total, 4 or 5 total, I think, so far this year that have been under 800. So yeah, that definitely kind of makes sense. And I mean, their worst team set of the year is 24-50, and that was on 13 and 14, which is kind of soured a little bit, actually. It was right up there, but now not quite as much. So yeah, I think it'll be another pretty tough match for us, realistically speaking.
Yeah.
Jerry's team plays everybody pretty tough, and I expect that to be true with us tonight. Lineup wise, I think so they've been shuffling around a little bit because Jared and Chris have been kind of bouncing back and forth in terms of who's on the top half, who's on the bottom half. So if I was gonna guess for tonight, if they have a full roster, I think it's gonna be Chris, Justin, Freed, Jerry is my hunch because Jerry's been bowling anchor spot all year. So that's kind of my suspicion, at least. Hecho en Mexico. So that's my hunch, at least. And then, I mean, for us, nothing's going to change with our lineup. I think we're pretty well established with Jaden, Noah, Yumi as our roster for the year. Jaden's obviously had a rough few weeks, and you've been crushing it for the last 2 months. So that's kind of storming out the door. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I think it will be a fun match. Just gonna obliterate the pocket and hope for the best tonight more than anything else. Been practicing quite a bit and got some stuff dialed in that will help with some of what I've been seeing reaction wise. What's the matter?
Oh, for some reason on the screen, what's showing on the screen for your shared window is not what's in the preview window.
Really?
It's not matching. Yeah, you're scrolling now, but it's not showing up on the stream that you're scrolling.
It's showing for me.
Yeah. It's not. Maybe it's just my feed. I don't know.
Yeah, that's your feed. I'm looking over at the YouTube, and it's working just fine.
Okay.
That's really weird. Technology is dumb.
I don't need to see it anymore anyway.
Yeah, we've talked about what we need to talk about. Equipment-wise, obviously, the big news for you since we last had one of these streams is you're now independent. So you're no longer. You got 99 problems, but a bolt ain't one, even though you are still wearing a lightning bolt right now. So,
it's a cool looking logo, and I got this douchey vest, so I've got to wear it sometime.
Yeah, I mean, look,
like all the cool guys that aren't bowling but are still walking around at PBA tournaments.
Yeah, amen. If the vest fits,
on. Yeah.
If the vest fits, you might as well wear it. Anything changing in the bag for you tonight? I don't think. Unless something has changed, I don't think you've drilled any non-SPI since you dropped your contract yet.
No, I didn't want to drill anything until I could get video with it. So when I do, I mean, I've got a Venom Shock and I've got an NV Tour sitting there. I think those are going to be the first two. And then I've got the Covert Revolt and the Taboo that I want to drill too. But yeah, the Summit Peak has looked pretty good for me. So that's going to go in the bag along with the Summit. And then the promotion's going to stay there. And then whatever, I don't know if I'll stick the power in there or the DNA or maybe my phase tour. I don't know, but that it doesn't really matter. I think right now Summit.
It's going to be Summit and Summit spare and check out pretty much.
Pretty much that it's going to be, and I haven't thrown the Summit in a few weeks. I've been kind of defaulting back to the promotion, whether or not it hasn't been a bad thing. I don't know if it's been the ball, but yeah, I mean the two Summits, promotion, spare ball, and then whatever else balances out that extra spot in the bag.
Probably something a little cleaner and faster. I could see the power being really good as an offset to those, honestly.
Yeah, and I think because those are all pretty early and smooth, and so just having something that's a little flippier if I need it. I had been bringing the DNA, but I think that the power, the DNA is a little strong-ish. I think that when I'm going to need to move inside, that's going to be when it's going to be drier, and so I'm going to need
something that will get through it a little easier.
Yeah, something that
come off of it properly. Yeah, that makes sense.
That's probably what I'll put in there.
Yeah, that's fair. I think I was actually genuinely toying with the idea of only bringing 3 balls tonight. That would have been NV Tour Trend 2 spare ball, but I think there have been enough times where my top speed has looked good and been like just a world beating type of reaction that I don't think I can leave it. I don't think I can leave it at home.
Mm-hmm.
And so then at that point, I'm just like, well, I'll just bring my same 4+ spare that I've been taking the last couple of weeks, which then adds in the ethos as my last ball. But realistically speaking, I think I used my NV Tour Pearl when I shot 297 on this pair back in week 5.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of got me thinking that I might just be firing my just chuck my trend 2 up the plains to 3.6 and hope for the best. Might be kind of like that's definitely I feel like in the range of outcomes for tonight.
Ocean vibe. I do have a red vibe. I've got an overseas red vibe that has a Semtex Pearl on it.
Ooh,
It's
yeah, actually,
the hazmat / Scorpion low flare cover.
yeah, it's so that specific version of the cover I think was on the Web MB, which is the blue and purple one.
Yeah, that everybody liked.
Yeah, yeah. So this mine's been a little weird. I threw it. It actually is a little bit weaker of a shell than I thought it was,
Mm-hmm.
but very fun to use when it is in play at least. So, but yeah, I think it pretty much covers it. Should be a fun night tonight. Always a good time bowling the Ottawa kids. So
Yeah.
yeah, as far as I guess we should talk at least briefly about standings. Trent's team had a really good last like 5 or 6 weeks of the first half,
Mm-hmm.
and they started out 50-14 for the second half, which is that is just a few. That's just a few points. So they're doing pretty well.
It's too early to tell after just a couple weeks, but again, Team Ottawa is kind of down further in the rankings, like we are. So is Team Crouch.
Yeah,
Clark, Wagner. There's only a couple teams. Trevor's team, who I think is going to be up there. Russ is going to be up there. I think Trent's team. I didn't want to say that they came out of nowhere, but they're really making the most of everything. And I mean, they're the second highest points total year to date behind us now.
yeah. And Keeler's team, I'm a little worried about them.
They're going to be
this
tough
half.
this half.
Steve's finally figuring stuff out again. DJ is starting to really figure out how to bowl in that building.
Mm-hmm.
Jeff is really solid, and Justin, I think, and he throws it so good. It's just a matter of kind of learning the tricks of bowling at Royal. But I expect Steve's team. I'd peg them to finish probably. I'm going to say top third.
Mm-hmm.
When it's all said and done this half. I think they're going to have a great second half of the year. Obviously, I like us to finish up there, and I don't think Jerry's team stays in 17th by any stretch of the imagination.
No, we won't really. I think, like we said for the first half, that because the first half is the first 5 weeks, you don't really know what's going to happen until averages and lineups get kind of finally set.
Yeah.
But I think it's kind of the same way for the second half. It just is going to take a few weeks to shake out because some teams are going to figure it out. Some teams are going to fall off a little bit. So yeah, I think we still need about 5 weeks of information to figure out how things are going to kind of go this half.
Yeah. I mean, and realistically, we're not that far off of where we were at the end of the first half. We went 19-13 week 1, and then 25-70 is Jesse's team week 2. So we're at 44 points instead of 29. But I mean, a couple of things go differently, and that could have easily been, 30-35 ish after two of the first half, and a couple things go different here. We could be at 40 pretty easily.
We pretty well split with Team Ottawa last time, didn't we?
I
can't remember.
That was 21-11 them by 10 pins for series.
Oh, yeah, that's right. They did. Yeah. They did get us, but yeah, it was close until the kind of the back half of that last game, and then we figured out that it was gonna not go well. So
I think it was like Jerry needed like the first hit to lock it up for his team set, and he got it or something along those lines. So yeah, I think I guess predictions. I'm going to go with the tried and true classic of teams that are always going to be tough. Is this match is going to be 21-11 by 40 or less? I just don't know which
One way
team
or
gets.
the
I just don't know which team gets 21. I hope us. I would like to think that we do, but
yeah.
Anything could happen. So,
Yeah, they're built so similar to us that it just we'll have to see.
Yep, exactly. So, and then I think we talked about this a little bit too. Is I think we're at the part of the season now where you have a decent idea of who's probably going to be a captain next year, and so those folks are going to really start kind of looking around and thinking about who's doing well, who's not, and who could potentially be a good ad for their respective teams next year. So
yeah,
that's something you're going to be watching a lot more this year, I'm assuming as well.
Yeah, everybody pays a little bit more attention in the second half to. I mean, it's not like you don't pay attention, but your mindset's a little different. Now it's just you've already seen everybody once. Now this is the second time seeing them again. The first time could have been a fluke, so it could have been. It might have been earlier in the season. Some people take longer to kind of get started going, and so you do kind of pay attention to a few things. But now you're specifically like thinking draft next year.
I don't know, man. Every time I see Warren, he's averaging 230, so he's going to be a captain at this rate. I feel like.
Yeah.
But anyways, it should be a fun time tonight, and I guess we'll be back same time, same channel next week.
Yeah. As far as I know, we're good to go.
Assuming Storm Dog doesn't get an upset tummy again.
Yeah.
But, fingers crossed.
Yep.
So. Anywho.
All right. Yeah.
Has been fun.
Yeah. We will see y'all next week, hopefully with good news.
Adios.